this is going to be about personal finance for business owners, but this is more intentionally going to be about how you generate more cash flow without having to work harder, without having to take more risk, without having to cut back. In addition to that, make sure you're capturing more wealth along the way with your business. Hey, there's some really good news I want to start with, which is that 91% of people in the world that are worth $5 million or more have one thing in common. They own a business. So the good news about this is going to be about personal finance for business owners, but this is more intentionally going to be about how you generate more cash flow without having to work harder, without having to take more risk, without having to cut back. Because I want to look at your existing assets and the existing things that you have as potential that's latent, that's not producing for you, and give you things you could implement within 24 hours, or probably not 24 hours because there'll be other speakers, but by Monday to improve your cash flow and generate more cash flow. And in addition to that, make sure you're capturing more wealth along the way with your business. So the other piece of good news is, even though I'm in finance, we're not going to be talking like very dry about economics, and I'm not gonna bore you with a bunch of statistics and convince you to separate yourself from your money, to put it into some investment that you don't know, that you don't control, in the name of some commission. Anyone ever experienced that in the world of finance? See, when you're a business owner, that is the kind of information that could damage you and actually hurt you when it comes to your finances, is to separate yourself from your money and to invest in things that you don't know. I mean, you now have this opportunity. You own a business to invest in yourself and to really gamble on yourself instead of on the gambling that happens out there in the investing world. At least if you're in Vegas and you're going to gamble, they'll bring you cocktails and you can play a card game along the way, right? In the introduction, they talked about, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. Well, my first official business was when I was 15 years old, and nothing like too sexy or savvy. It was detailing cars, which was, scrubbing bugs and tar off of cars and waxing and that kind of stuff. But I became a speaker pretty quickly because 6 months into that business, I was presenting on owning a business to this panel called SIFE, Students in Free Enterprise. And I won $500 for an hour speech, and I thought about how many damn cars I'd have to detail in order to make $500. And that's why I'm here today speaking instead of washing cars, all right? So this is the opportunity before you. I don't know how many people in here come from money. I didn't come from money. My dad's a coal miner. My mom worked at a credit union, and my great-grandfathers and grandfathers were all coal miners. So the one thing that they taught me that I think was a good lesson, but it's not enough to get you wealthy and keep you wealthy, was they taught me to work hard. And that's important, right? I think we can agree with that. But at the same time, hard work with the wrong financial philosophy equals bankruptcy, equals devastating results, equals bitterness and frustration. Because imagine if you're putting your whole heart and your entire passion into everything that you're doing everything to execute and implement, and then all of a sudden there's a financial surprise that comes your way, and you get completely derailed because you didn't have the right financial situation, you didn't have the right liquidity and safety, then what? See, that's the part that's missing. So I want to give you the insights and the tips, and I'm going to talk about the first thing called Cashflow Banking, which is an infrastructure for you to capture wealth elegantly rather than to budget. Who would like to never budget for the rest of their life? Yeah. I have a book coming out next year called Budgeting Sucks, all right? Live free, retire wealthy, and I'll just make a declaration I haven't made yet, but I'm going to declare it to this room for the first time. I'm going to make that the #1 financial book of the next decade. See, I was like number 22 in the last decade with Killing Sacred Cows when I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just putting a book out there, and then it caught traction. But I'm going to make sure Budgeting Sucks gets in people's hands, because budgeting actually creates a scarcity mindset. And you have to use all this mental energy and anguish and time to go out there and budget. And then you set up different envelopes or jars, and you put different amounts of money in there. And if there's not enough money, then I guess you just don't get to do something that month. But that actually limits someone. And scarcity is the greatest destroyer of wealth that's out there. No amount of luck, no amount of saving, no discipline, no rate of return, no financial advisor will ever save you if you're in the scarcity mindset, because the scarcity mindset propagates what I call the consumer condition. And the consumer condition is where people look to take more from the world than they give. And that always leads to financial disaster. And no matter how much money they have, they always feel like they're going to lose it, and they never truly enjoy it. So the first thing is you are your asset. You're the greatest asset. It's not a stock. It's not a bond. It's not a piece of real estate. It's your mindset, and it's your ability to create value. And if you want to make more money, you're in the right place because you're learning how to create more value out there in the world. And the more value you create, the more dollars you make. So if you want to make money, what do you got to do? Create value. How do you create more value? That's the question I want you to continually ask yourself. You do it through serving people, through impacting people, through solving problems. And as you serve others, there's this awesome thing called the internet that you get a leverage that means that it's so much more reach than we had in the past, right? So you're in this unique time, this unique opportunity, and you don't have to budget anymore. On the other hand, different than scarcity is abundance, which I call the producer paradigm. And the producer paradigm is where you look to create more value in the world than you take from it, right? That's where wealth comes from. See, people in scarcity think if someone's profitable or someone makes a lot of money, where do they think that came from? It's been taken. It's evidence of deception. It's evidence of coercion. It's evidence of someone else taking too much of the pie. But the reality is, all wealth is built through exchange. See, if I give you $1, that's not the end of that dollar. You could take and use that dollar again, right? And then whoever you give the dollar to, they get to use it again. So the more time that circulates out there through goods, services, and experiences, the more wealth that's built, not the less. See, the government just can't print money and expect there to be more wealth because there has to be exchange behind that. So you're out there to help facilitate exchange, get things in people's hands that they value. I looked at that list that Jason put up there, right? That gave them confidence, that gave them assurance, that solved the problem for them, all those kinds of things. So that's the real key to wealth. And yet if we go to most of personal finance, it's directly in opposition to that. Isn't it usually about cutting back, saving, sacrificing, delaying, deferring, so that one day, someday, you can finally live the good life? Anyone ever been sold that bill of goods before? That sucks, right? I'm just gonna keep using that word. Budgeting sucks. That philosophy sucks. That's no good. You know what I'm saying? So when I started at 15 with my first business, uniquely named Garrett Gunderson's Car Care. Yep. And I'm detailing these cars, and then I start hiring some employees, and then I become the Young Entrepreneur of the Year for the Small Business Administration. And I win $5,000, and I'm a teenager with $5,000. What do you think I'm gonna do with it? Yeah, I was a financial nerd. I was a nerd, I guess. I wanted to invest that money. I was in this small coal mining town of Price, and I figured if I could invest that money and become a millionaire, that meant I was something, that I wasn't this little small town nothing. Anyone ever felt that before? Like, that takes me way back, and I'll share because, all of you chose to be an entrepreneur because you're unique. There's something different about you. You said that you were going to invest in yourself or take a gamble on you instead of putting your money into other things that you don't control and you don't know anything about the outcome. And if you read Walt Disney's biography, pretty long thing, there's a letter inside of that biography from Roy, from his brother. And it was during the Depression. And he had written home to his parents and said, hey, I think that everyone's going to learn a pretty big lesson, that they think that they're investing, but they're actually gambling. Walt and I decided to take a gamble on ourselves and build a studio because it's something that we have control over. It's something that we have a vision for. And then look what happened, right? So you have this opportunity to stay in charge, to be at the forefront of it. But when I was in kindergarten, how about this? We'll go back to kindergarten to talk about why I was this money nerd. And why, instead of going out there and blowing that money and spending it and buying something like, I grew up in Price, so maybe buying like a lifted truck with a gun rack or something like that, in this little coal mining town. Instead, I wanted to invest it. And by the way, when I went to ask where I should invest, the first person I went to was the president of the credit union because I detailed their cars that they repossessed. Anyone have a guess where they told me to invest that money? Yeah, certificate of deposit. How exciting is that, by the way? Certificate of deposit, rule of 72, you just take the interest rate, which is like 0.01%, some ridiculously low thing, into 72. It tells you how long it takes the money to double. I was young. I'm like, will I even be alive that long? It's like, that's longer than I've been alive at this point. So a CD sounded awful. But then I did what a lot of people do. I said, well, who do I know that has a lot of money? And I went to my uncle. And my uncle, he had a lot of money. He had a really big home. So I thought that meant you had a lot of money. Now, for some people, it means they're on the brink of bankruptcy. But for him, he actually made a lot of money. So I went and said, where should I invest? And he said, Novell. Who's heard of Novell? At the time, they owned 87% of the traffic of the internet, and now there's like 7 people in the room that know who Nobel is. So if I would have invested in Nobel, what would have happened to my money? Right? That 5,000 would have went away pretty quickly. So fortunately, my aunt pulled me aside and she said, your uncle makes a lot of money in business and then pisses it away in the stock market, right? And you know the best way to end up with $1 million in the stock market. You start with 2 million or more, right? Like, that's just the problem with this whole thing. And then they tell you that on average, it's earned 10% since 2000 BC. You know, it's like average, like, let's say today I get in my little Venetian hotel and there's 2 shower heads and I turn one to cold and the other one to scalding hot. On average, I'm at a warm temperature, but in reality, I'm miserable as hell, right? It doesn't really work that way. That's not how the world works. I mean, let's just do simple math. Let's say that you have $10,000 and you're in 100% on it. Who knows what that grows to? 20,000, right? Now, if you lose 50% the next year, now what is it? Back to your 10,000. So that's a 0% actual return, right? Actual return. Worse than that because they took their damn fees no matter what. But it's a 0% actual return. But anyone know how to just do quick averages like math, right? So if we had 100% the first year, Philip, we subtract 50% the second year, that's a positive 50%, right? Over 2 years, divide it by 2, that's a 25% average return. This is why no one's getting ahead in the damn stock market. It's all a bunch of crap. We did research. Since 2000, the US stock market, adjusted for inflation, has only done 9%. Total, not per year, total. You have this unique advantage where you could really go in and invest in yourself, build a business. Don't separate the money from your business. Invest in your inventory. Invest in your liquidity. Put it into you. At least if you make some mistakes, which I guarantee, anyone in here ever made a mistake in business or just me up here? You know? It's like, damn, you know, you'll make mistakes, but at least you could learn from those mistakes and course correct. You use that, that's a tuition. You know, try to learn as much as you can so the tuitions are less expensive. You know, paying for ASM is a lot less expensive than trying to do all this stuff on your own and just getting beat up all over the place, right? So I really acknowledge that you're here and investing the time in yourself. There's a lot of people that could have, you know, had plenty of excuses, but you found a way to be here. So back to this story, I'm sitting there talking to, you know, how do I find these people that are good at investing? And the more people I ask, the more confusing it becomes. I go talk to a mutual fund salesman, and you'll be surprised what they told me to buy. A mutual fund, how crazy is that? That's how they get paid. And so no matter how, you know, how many questions I asked, I didn't really get the good answers. And the real reason, though, that I wanted to become a millionaire, like that was the goal when I was a teenager, not knowing what that really meant, was because, let's go back, you might not think that I know where I'm going here because I'm going back to the kindergarten story. Remember I said kindergarten earlier? You're like, why the hell did he say kindergarten? You can find out right now. When I was in kindergarten, I made the most beautiful milk carton house. We got to drink chocolate milk, and then when you're finished, you get to do this craft project and turn it into a house. And I thought this was the most lovely art project I had ever done in my life. I was so damn proud, I couldn't wait to take it home to my mom. But then the teacher did this thing where she put it up on a shelf and she said, memorize your address, and once you memorize your address, we'll give you back your milk carton project that you can take to your mom or dad or whatever they said, right? And I'm like, cool, yeah, I'm gonna do that. But then I went home and played football in the snow or whatever, totally forgot about it. So the second day I show up, half the students get it back, not me because I didn't even think about learning my address. So I was really determined the second day, so I stood on that like fake green, like crappy, like hard stuff you wipe your feet on before you walk into a house. You ever see, like, I don't know what the hell that is, but we had that. What's it called? AstroTurf kind of stuff. And I'm just staring in the freezing cold, and then it was just too cold, so I stopped looking at the numbers. I miss it the second day. So now, after missing it the second day, I'm the only kid that hasn't got their milk carton back. And so the third day, I was so damn determined, but I transposed numbers, and this teacher, instead of handing me back my beautiful little milk carton project, threw it in the garbage. I really wanted you to feel bad for me, and you guys just did. But see, in that moment, I said to myself, I am stupid. That's what I believed about myself. And so Here's the thing, that fueled me to be a damn entrepreneur because that's why I want to be a millionaire, to prove that I wasn't stupid.